position is based upon his political motive.
Tell everybody how much you love A10 News Media Group.
A10 News Media Group. I love them because they got the message to Sports Negro up in California for burning them jockeys from under the bridge and sending them to Flint because nobody recognizes the dark man no more. They rather to burn them out and talk about NRA, Negro racket ass, and you ain't getting no.
Yes, I had a cocktail.
Let me get my share. Hold on, family. Oh, snap.
Love your family.
Good morning, family. I know I'm late. I got a treat for y'all, though.
He late. Love your family.
How was I late? I was already communicating to the people up
Take
here.
care of your. I was here though, but wasn't I here before 9 o'clock?
No, you was here, but you know what? I thought we was waiting on Dominique. I didn't know we were starting before Dominique.
It's communication, but I was here on time.
You was 3 minutes ahead of schedule.
Don't matter. I was here before 9 o'clock. It don't matter.
I know.
Love your family.
Nate Jackson, Jessica, what's up, Jay Stewart, Rich Gallagher.
What up?
Becky B, Georgia boy. I got a Vincent Day. What it do, Sis Audrey, good brother, Meat Free Barbecue from Palatka.
Hey, Maurice. Maurice, where's Palatka, Florida at? Where is it close to? Fort Lauderdale, Miami,
good morning,
Tallahassee,
Linda
Jacksonville.
North Carolina in the building. I gotta get my
I'm trying to find Maurice, dog.
You finna put it in here. Ms. J, good morning. Retha Herner,
hey,
Justin
Maurice.
Allen. Okay, JoJo, I see you in here from Poison City, Flint, Michigan. Eartha Logan, RJ.
That's my auntie.
Eleanor Grover, Wicker, Morning, Terry Knight, Nixon, Tracy Glenn. I got the treat for y'all. You want me to play the treat?
Play the treat.
Because I ain't even shared. See, you know how I know I've been on my game? Because I already had it up already this morning.
Lord have mercy.
I can share. Let me play this gift.
You gonna mute us? Okay.
Play this gift.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I've been waiting to talk about this situation. And I had started earlier about this. When Ashley Capital first came to Councilman Murphy, one of the things, and I think Eva Worthy was in the first meeting, we talked about a community benefits agreement. Coming up with a community benefits agreement where they come and we agree to some things in the community. One thing they didn't want to promise was that whatever companies come to Flint wasn't able to guarantee the job. So Ashley couldn't guarantee what the companies to give the residents of the city of Flint jobs or whatever. So we still working on a community benefits agreement, so that's not off the table. That was one of the things. The second thing that me and Ashley Capital talked, because I'm a lobbyist, when it comes down to when you come into our city and you want to invest in our city and then you asking for $72 million, what you go give to us, what you gonna help do in our community. The second thing that Councilman Murphy talked to them about was the brownfield development. Can you include a geographic area that not only included the Buick City site, because a lot of the community, a lot of the third ward is blight. I have the highest concentrated area when it deals with blight. So they said, what is your concern, Quincy? I said, blight is my concern. This is really what I want to focus on. But when we was having those conversations, it was like, okay, Quincy, if we do blight, what can we do? Can you give us never that. So don't believe the hype when people say that Councilman Murphy was trying to broker a deal. What Quincy Murphy was trying to do was see what we could do to bring some support and help to the third ward, to the city of Flint. So when it comes down to the Limemore situation, how did the Limemore come together? I've been working with Habitat for a long time. We done got a neighborhood grant that I got for $25,000 through the community foundation. It went through Habitat, a $10,000 grant through Flint Brand that Habitat got. I still got money in Habitat for Humanity that I have not spent. I got a $5,000 grant. But when you look at the work that I've done in Dewey Park, I have grant money that's still out there that I have not even spent when it comes down to doing work in the community. So if I wanted to go and get a lawnmower, I could have used some of the grant money that I still have that I have not even spent to buy a lawnmower. So when the lawnmower came, I said, okay, and not only the lawnmower, let's talk about the River Park stuff. Because they originally in October came to me and wanted to do some Christmas stuff for some kids. So they donated a whole bunch of Christmas gifts to some kids. So they came to me and they said, Councilman Murphy, what can we do to help support the community? We want to give gifts to kids. So I went to River Park out in the projects that we call on Carpenter Road, and I went and had Daryl look for some kids, and we found some kids and we gave them some Christmas gifts. So let's start there. They started giving donations then. Then the lawnmower, I said, okay, well, what's shovel ready program? We just did a $85,000 grant through the Sylvester Broom Center, the mini pitch that we just did, that we worked in partnership with Habitat. So what I was doing was looking for shovel-ready programs that y'all can channel some money through. What I knew we needed in the third ward was lawnmowers to cut grass, because all I'm getting since I've been city councilman is complaints about grass. You call the city of Flint to get the grass cut, you might get some support. You call the land bank and get some support. You might get somebody to come out there and cut grass. What I'm lobbying for and what Quincy go work on and go continue to work on and go move forward is becoming independent and creating our own third ward blight elimination program. You gonna see me with some bulldozers. You gonna see me with some trucks. I ain't stopped yet. So when it comes down to a lawnmower, I don't need no lawnmower for my yard. I got a push lawnmower that I cut my grass. My grass ain't even big enough to get no zero-turn lawnmower to have to cut my grass, so I don't need no lawnmower for myself. I already got a zero-turn lawnmower that I'm using. I used it today that they did not pay for. It's on the flat now because I ran over some glass, but I still, they lawnmowers that they gave me is gonna help move the community, and it ain't come to me, it's came through Habitat for Humanity, so I didn't personally get no lawnmower for me, so I didn't have to disclose nothing because it didn't personally come to me.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Anyone else on the first ballot? Murphy.
Thank you. When I looked at the, what concerned me a little bit when when this started coming up, what concerned me was when I looked at the list of all of the organizations and the people, because I don't know who all they talked to as far as the colleagues, and I only saw two of us, or three, including Eric May, Sheldon Neely, and Karen Weaver. I was concerned a little when I didn't see no other colleague on there as far as contribution of anything, projects, or whatever you guys had going on in your work. So one of my thoughts was, did they even reach out to you guys and see if it was something that they can do, or did y'all have a cause that they could support? So when I saw that I didn't see anybody else's name on there, that concerned me, and part of me thought, well, was they trying to support, trying to get a vote, but that was never discussed. So I didn't assume that. I just thought maybe they just wanted to support some stuff in the community. And I didn't know what kind of conversation they had, because I know they've been trying to reach out to some of the colleagues. I know my colleague in the 5th Ward said she wasn't really interested in meeting with them personally. She wanted to meet with them in an open setting. So maybe that opportunity didn't come. But it did concern me as a council that I didn't see other people's names on the list. of contribution. What can I do about that? That's beyond me, but I know I'm willing to work with them and whoever, not just them, anybody. We got some other projects. Catholic Charity came to me with some tiny homes that they get ready to build for veterans in the 3rd Ward. I'm excited about that. The new gas station on Carpenter Road that's getting ready to build 50 homes. I'm excited about that in the 3rd Ward. Sylvester Groom Empowerment Center that's getting ready to build a new building. I'm excited about that. And there is a lot of moving parts in the 3rd Ward when it comes down to projects that I am looking forward to working with people. So I'm not going to shut down no support or no help when it comes down to the need of the 3rd Ward, because I believe that I have the worst ward out of all the 9 wards, and my ward need all the help that it can get. Now, whether they were trying to give somebody support or whatever, we never had that discussion or whatever, and whether they gave the money towards the lawnmower or not, was I going to support them? Possibly, yes. What did concern me was the $72 million. That's why I went to the Eagle meeting at Metropolitan, because I wanted to go with an open mind to hear, was Eagle going to tell me something, or I was going to have this aha moment where, oh my God, y'all wouldn't disclose and everything, because I'm concerned that we're going to do a tax break, but for $72 million, we damned if we do, we damned if we don't. We in a messed up situation. We got a site that's got some environmental issues going on. Who go clean it up? What investor go come in the site and redevelop on there with their own money? If they don't, who will? So I'm looking at all of that right there. And for somebody who grew up a block away from where Buick City was shut down and shattered, I'm excited as a resident who grew up in that neighborhood, who parents still live in that neighborhood, and sister and brother and friends still live in that neighborhood, where I still go down in that particular area. I'm excited to see some movement and some possibility of some redevelopment. And for over 20 or 30 some years, we didn't know what was going to happen down there. And finally, someone wants to invest in cleaning up the site. If we could find somebody that offset that $72 million, I'm down with it. But I'm just not going to vote no against a company that want to come and invest in the city of Flint.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Quincy, get it, Quincy. Get it, Quincy. Shouts out to ATN Flint, the TikTokers that aren't us, but they said that they're us. But they didn't say that they were us. But the council said that they were us. But anyway, shout out to ATN Flint. You did a wonderful job going through the archives to pull up such a great message of critical thinking. So that's what we're going to be doing today. A lot of critical thinking. Shout out to ATN News Media Group and the greatest producer in the world, Spacely Sprocket. And to the left of me, I have the wonderful Genesee County Clerk, Mr. Dominique Clemens.
Good morning.
How are you, darling?
I'm blessed and highly favored.
Oh, that's it. That's it. So we just thought that we would just jump right into it this morning. You know, we always standing on business around here. And so since we probably going to end up in the back anyway, we said, you know what, we're just going to help them out. So I got to send this link to Mickey real quick. Is it anything that you would like to say while I'm doing this?
Yeah, so let's dig in. Let's get started.
Let's get started.
There's a lot going on, and there are a lot of recalls happening. And thanks for inviting me on to talk about elections in Flint.
Yes.
We know coming up in May, just a couple of weeks from now, there will be a recall election for the 9th Ward City Council.
Mhm.
We know in August, there will be the special election, the general election in the 7th Ward of Flint. Also in August will be the 1st Ward primary special election.
Mhm.
And then in November, we have the 1st Ward general election. And in the case of all of these seats, once the election is certified by the Board of Canvassers, it takes about a week to 2 weeks to certify. Those council members, as soon as that election's certified, they'll be sworn in to start their seat. So they'll all be starting at a different time. They don't have to wait until the beginning of the year or the next term. They come in as soon as the election's over and certified. Yes, yeah.
So I got a question, as most of the people that's watching do. Voter registration cards were sent out. Well, not, well, yeah, voter registration cards were sent out with the new ward maps on there.
Correct.
Okay. Did that come from your office or the city clerk?
So that's a good question. Those voter registration cards come from the city clerk's office. When somebody goes and registers to vote, when they want to become a voter, you register to vote in the city clerk's office. Now, what can happen sometimes is sometimes people will send those voter registrations to our office. We take them and then we give them to the city clerk. But those cards come from the city clerk. And because they've sent out those voter registration cards with the new wards that will be for the 2026 election and the new precincts, we've put together a website on the county clerk's page that lays out some information about these recalls, about these special elections, and it shows those different maps because there's a lot of confusion going on.
Absolutely.
And we want to make sure that people know what district they're in and when and where they can vote. So the example of the 9th Ward, those new voter registration cards will say that you're in the new 9th Ward, or some folks are in the new 8th Ward are eligible to vote because of how those districts were drawn. Let me back up and clear that up what I just said.
Yes, back
So
up.
the new 9th Ward comprises pieces of the old 9th Ward, of course,
Okay.
but as well as a couple of neighborhoods from the old
8th Ward.
Sorry, the new 8th Ward was in the old 9th Ward. If you pull up that map,
Okay, let's go to the map.
we created a side by side.
Okay. So we have the 2021 Flint wards, and then we have the redistricting maps. That's the 2022 Flint wards.
So the maps that were approved in 2022, that's what folks are calling the new maps. The map on the left-hand side, the 2021 map, that was a map that was actually created with the 2012 census, but that was the map that council was elected under in 2021. That is the map that your current council members represent. So when there's a recall, it is from this 2021 map. So when I'm talking about the 8th and 9th Ward here in the May election, if you look down there towards the bottom of the screen, you see on the new map, there's that section right in the middle of the lower side of Flint that is red in the 8th Ward. But if you look over to the other map, there's that straight line. They don't have that bump out.
Right.
So the folks in that little red section
Can't vote.
can vote.
They can
in
vote?
that one section, because they're in the old 9th Ward, but not in the new 9th Ward.
Okay, so
So
the little red section that comes over into the 9th, into the green part of the 9th Ward, they cannot vote.
They can vote. So because if you look at the map
But that's
next
the
to
new
it,
map.
right, that's why they can vote. Because if you look at the old map, that's still colored in blue, that blue-green color.
But Davina said that the new maps don't go into place until 2026.
That is correct. So that's why they can vote, because on the old map, they're in the 9th Ward. The map over here on the left is the old map. The right is the new map. We're using this old map.
Okay, so you see 8 right there. So you see that straight line. That's 8.
Right.
Okay. And then when you look at the 9th Ward on the
On the new map.
2022 map, it comes over a little bit.
Correct.
And those, okay, they still 8th Ward.
So those people in the 8th Ward are in the new 8th Ward, but the old 9th Ward.
Got you. Okay.
That's
I
what we're
got
saying,
you.
yeah.
I got you.
And the
Okay.
way that all works, it doesn't matter when you moved, or it's not about time. It's where you currently live. So if today you live, and there's the and to it, you got to be registered to vote.
Okay.
If you live
Okay, take
and
that
you are
down, take that
registered to vote in the old ward,
Okay.
you can vote in the recall. If you live and you're registered to vote in the old ward, you can sign a petition for that recall.
Say it one more time.
If you live and you are registered to vote in an old ward today,
Today.
where you currently live,
Okay.
you are eligible to vote in the recall.
Okay.
So if in 2021
Mhm.
you live somewhere and you moved in 2022, it don't matter. It matters where you live today.
Okay. So then another question, Dominique. People are saying, why the hell did you send out the voter registration cards if they don't go into effect until 2026?
That is the question.
Well, damn,
Right.
if you don't know, I could you over the city.
So the city and the county are separate entities. I wish I was over the city.
Me too.
But they are an independently elected council, an independently elected mayor who appoints their clerk. I am elected countywide for the county. The duties that I have are separate than the duties that the city has. I don't have oversight over the city. I can't force them to do something or not to do something. Our offices work more so in a way where I would say it's in tandem, where we have different tasks to get the bigger picture done. When it comes to directing something to be done, the state can do that. Our Secretary of State's office, the council, they select and they appoint a clerk. They can direct their clerk to do something. I do not have that power to direct the city clerk or oversee the city clerk.
Right.
But what we have is, like I said, we've created this site, but also we're adding another. I don't know if that a second map is up there. We've created a map that has the new voting precincts. Yep, this bottom map here.
Oh, you read my mind. Because how did you know I was about to ask a question about that? Okay, go ahead.
So that
Keep going.
that bottom map shows the new precincts that we have. They came down to 28 or 29 precincts. But those colors, you'll notice, are the old wards. So you'll see a couple of things. You'll notice there are a couple of precincts that have multiple wards in them. But now people can look. The precincts that are on your voter registration cards today, these are the new precincts. So if you're in, an easy one to use is Flint's precinct 1.
Okay.
Right? So if you see precinct 1, you can look at this map and you can find precinct 1 and see what color precinct 1 is. Precinct 1's yellow. That's the first ward. If you go down to the bottom of where the 9th ward is, you can look at those precincts. All right, am I eligible to vote if I'm in precinct 29? Well, 29, that's the new precinct. That's what I see on my card that I got mailed from the city. Oh, that's colored in blue. That is the old 9th ward. Now, there are a couple of precincts. If you look at precinct 24, that's the one we were just talking about.
Right.
Part of precinct 24 is in the 8th ward. In part of precinct 24, I believe that's 24. It's a little blurry.
Yep, it's 24.
Part of precinct 24 is in the 8th ward. Part of precinct 24 is in the 9th ward. The blue is and this is the old map. So that little blue section where you see the straight line where it goes from red to blue, but you see the green line around it, that was that area where I was talking about, where they're in the new 8th ward, but the old 9th ward. So this helps to visualize that. Now, the question that might come up is, all right, if I live in precinct 24 and I go to vote, how are they going to know which ballot to give? Right?
Right.
And that's not an unusual thing. We have precincts across this county, across the state, that we call split precincts.
Okay.
Now, Flint, we're not used to having this in Flint because our lines have previously been drawn pretty clean. But if we go down and we talk about Mundy Township, they have, in Mundy Township alone, just south of Flint, just talking south of the airport, they have 5 different school districts that touch Mundy Township.
They do.
And all of those school districts come together at a point. So they have several precincts where they have multiple school districts in the same precinct. So you'll hear people when you're at the polling location, oh, they're in Mundy Township precinct 1A or precinct 1B. When someone goes to vote and they put in their information, it shows their address in which part of the split they live in. So for this May election, somebody can go to the polling location in Flint at their polling location that's on that registration card. If it says 9th ward, in some cases, if they live in that little neighborhood, 8th ward, and they'll know they're getting the right ballot because it's all built into the state system.
Okay.
But they don't got to wait until election day to go figure that out. The first link on that website is a link to the Michigan Voter Information Center.
Mhm.
It's MVIC. You can go to that michigan.gov/vote. But the direct link is there on our clerk page, our county clerk page. And if you type in your name and your address, on the very top of that page, you're going to see a section that says election calendar.
Okay.
And if you live in the old 9th Ward,
Old
what we're
Ninth
calling
Ward.
old,
9th Ward.
the 2021 9th Ward, you're going to see that there's a May election for you. And if you click on that, it's going to show you your ballot.
Okay.
And you'll see, it might say you live in the 8th Ward, but you're going to see a 9th Ward ballot.
Okay.
So you can figure that out. You can test it yourself. You don't have to wait till election day to say, am I in the right ward or not? You can go online. The state system has it laid out. It'll show you, yep, you live in the new 8th Ward, but you're eligible for the 9th Ward recall because you've got the 9th Ward ballot. Now, if you're, for this election, for this May election, if you live in any ward outside of the old, what we're calling the old 9th Ward, you're not going to see a May election because the only election in May in the city of Flint is the 9th Ward. But when we get to August, everybody has an election in August. So everyone should be going online, checking to see what's on their ballot, not just for the wards. You'll see if you're in Flint in August, if you live in the old 7th Ward, you'll see that that election. If you live in the old 1st Ward, you will see that primary election. But everything else is on the ballot in August, and you don't have to wait until you get your ballot mailed to you. You don't have to wait to go into the polling location. You can look and see that sample ballot to see all of the names listed for every race so that you can do your homework. You can do your research. We've got some ballot proposals that are going to be on the ballot this year. You can read the language of that ballot proposal at home before your ballot even gets to you. Ask your questions, talk to your neighbors, do your research online to know who I'm going to vote for Congress or county commissioner, or in certain cases, city council. All of that online at the Michigan Voter Information Center, michigan.gov/vote.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
So it was a poll site that closed at Greater Holy Temple. I think that's Greater Holy Temple out there on Dorr Highway, Mother Jones Church. And so the closest polling site now is Holbrook Church. It's far, far away. So who decides what method is used to decide what polls to close?
Sure. So
Because,
it is, yep.
well, in
Go ahead,
part
go
two to
ahead.
that question, people will have new polling sites for this May election, as you just stated. It's going to be a lot of confusion.
Right.
Then the third part to that question is, do you go in on the training? Like if Davina is confused, if she sent out this information 2 years in advance, do you think the poll workers are really going to know who can vote and who can't vote?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, let's take each part of that.
Okay.
So when you get that voter registration card that just went out, I think January, February.
Yeah.
Very
crooked and everything.
On that, it listed the new precinct and the new ward. And on that, it also listed a location. Regardless if you're voting in a new or old ward, if you're voting in the recall or not, that location is where you will go to vote, what is on your card.
Okay.
And again, you can check your voting location, not just from the card, but online at michigan.gov/vote. You can type in your address and it'll show you your voting location, where you go to vote.
Okay.
Now, that process, the precincts in Flint have changed as they've changed across the entirety of the state. With the census, they redistricted. With new state law, they changed the number of voters that can be in a precinct. So that's why they went down to 29 precincts, as opposed to, I believe, 56 or 57 that they had before. And in drawing that precinct maps, the city clerk's office can draw and consolidate those precincts. That goes through a process, depending on each city is a little bit different, either the city election commission or the city council. I'm not sure which one in Flint approved it. In cities, the election commission is comprised of usually the clerk and then 2 or 3 other individuals, the city clerk, that is. There's a city election commission. There's a county election commission. At the state level, it's the state board of canvassers. We also have a county board of canvassers, which is a completely different thing, which I think is a good pause to have on what these different bodies do. So our state board of canvassers, they serve as both the canvassers and the election commission for the state.
Okay.
So the state board of canvassers, They approve, they take in the filings and work with the Secretary of State's office for statewide offices. If there's a recall that gets filed at a state level, the state board of canvassers reviews that. In the end of the election, this year's a big election with a presidential question with state house and senate races. The state board of canvassers will certify the election. The next level down is the county board of canvassers.
Okay.
The county board of canvassers, their role is limited. The county board of canvassers are to certify the election that happens here in the county. Their other role, they certify the bags that are used for the election, which our county board of canvassers just finished that process. So every municipality in the county, the bags that they put ballots in after the ballots are voted in the machine, they take them out of the machine, they put them in a bag that gets sealed and secured.
Not all the time.
They're supposed to be sealed and secured.
Okay.
Now, regardless if they seal them correctly, before they can even use that bag, they have to bring that bag to the county board of canvassers that will inspect that bag, make sure there's no rips in the bag, the zippers work, nothing's broken, and they will approve that bag. Once that bag's approved, it can be used. It's still on the city or township clerk to make sure that bag is being used correctly, but that bag has been certified. The county board of canvassers also are the ones that will oversee the recount process. If there's a recount in an election, somebody wins an election by just 1 or 2 votes, there's going to be a recount, and it's the board of canvassers that are appointed. The board of, sorry, I'm getting my words,
That's okay.
my
That's
tongue
okay.
tied. The board of canvassers is appointed by the county board of commissioners, which are elected by the people from all 9 districts of the county. 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. It always has to be 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. That's the board of canvassers. Then we have the county board, the county election commission, or the board of election commissioners. The county election commission is comprised of the county clerk and register, that's myself, the chief probate judge, that's Jenny Barkey, and the county treasurer, Deb Cherry.
Okay.
If one of the 3 of us are not there, there are alternates. The alternates are the prosecutor and the sheriff. And the board of election commissioners for the county has basically 2 roles. They approve the ballot. So once all the names get submitted that go on the ballot, the election commission looks over the ballot and says, all right, they've got Joe Biden listed as president. That's the race he's running in. They've got Tanya Burns running for city council. That's the race she's running in, to make sure the right heading, the right candidates, things are spelled right. They approve the ballot. The other thing the county election commission does, and we've seen this happen a lot, is they review the language for recalls, local recalls. So local recalls means any city, any township, any school district, or county commission goes to the county election commission, and they're reviewing if that language is clear and factual. If someone wants to recall a countywide office, like your prosecutor, like your sheriff, your state representative, your state senate, the state does those recalls. So then lower than that is your city election commission. And this is one of the really important pieces of this whole process. The city election commission, that includes 3 or 4 city officials. They're the ones that set your polling locations. They're the ones that are going to vote on the precincts. They have to vote and approve every person that's going to be a poll worker in that election. So the day-to-day operations of the election, your voter registration cards, your polling place, the mechanics of voting is handled by your city clerk and your city election commission. The printing of the ballots and the making sure those ballots get to the local clerk, the reviewing of the process, the campaign finance, the handling the recalls and recounts happen at the county level.
Now, who picks the city election commission?
So the city election commission, those are, I believe, and I don't remember who's all on them, but they're statutory seats. So at the county, I'm going to talk about the county because that's what I know best.
Absolutely.
The clerk, the clerk, the treasurer, and the probate judge. Those 3 are selected because the state law says those 3 make the election commission. And I believe it is the same for the city. It's the city clerk. And I don't remember the other people that are in statute of who they have, or it spells out in state law who can be appointed to fill the different seats of a local election commission.
Okay. Now, back to those cards. Say I'm elderly. I don't know how to work the internet. I don't have access to a computer or the internet. I get that card and that's what I'm going to go by.
Mhm.
Then what? I
And-
go and vote, and I'm not too sure Miss Nancy may know the process either. Will she have a ballot and just give it to me?
So what is on that card as far as the voting location is correct. Where there's confusion is that ward because they
Yes.
listed the new wards and not the old wards. And I agree that is confusing.
Mhm.
Where there is solace in the situation, and it is a horrible situation and it's confusing. It doesn't matter what age you are. Young folks to old folks. It's become a confusing situation. But when you go in to vote, especially if you're voting in person, there is a computer there and they're putting information on the computer. That computer, and this is where it comes back to all those different layers, that computer has on it what's called the QVF, the Qualified Voter File. And it is a program that is set and maintained by the state of Michigan.
Okay.
So when they type in their name, it's going to tell you which ballot that person needs. And that is the state doing that. Now, it is a Flint poll worker that is hired by the city, but they're using the state system.
So everybody from the 9th ward that goes to walk in to that recall election, their name will get typed into this computer.
Every name for anyone that votes will be typed in to the computer. When you show your ID, that's what they're doing. They're typing it in. That shows that, A, are you registered to vote or not?
Okay.
Right? Just because you have an ID doesn't mean you're registered to vote.
Okay.
So they're looking to see, yep, this person's registered to vote. This is the address they're registered in. Because this can be the thing. You could have lived for a year, 2 years in the 9th ward.
Right.
If you used to live in Saginaw and you were registered to vote in Saginaw, you got to be registered to vote where you live.
Right.
Now, we do have same-day voter registration, so you can change and update your voter registration. You do that at the city clerk's office, but you have to be registered to vote. It'll show on that computer where you're registered to vote, where your voting address is. And it'll show, if you have a split precinct, which ballot you're supposed to get.
Okay, so no more of those books and looking for your name and your address.
So they have those books. Those books are there and they'll still write in the books. That's the redundancy of it. That's the backup, right?
Okay.
But we have the laptops that we use. We call them the electronic poll book. And that's where they're putting all that information in, both on election day and now with 9 days of early voting. Same thing. They can look you up in that computer system. They know which ballot that you get.
Okay.
They have that paper book now to maintain that list of voters in case your computer breaks, there's a power outage, the internet goes out. We have that as a backup. But their first thing and what they're always going to be using is that poll book that's going to show that this person gets this ballot.
Okay, and I have a couple of more questions, and then I'm going to open up the phone lines because I know we have a lot of people out there that are waiting to ask you some questions. So when we got down to the last recall, Liddell Lewis Ward 2,
Mhm.
there was some discrepancies there. And the city said we got 50. I'm just throwing out some numbers.
Yep.
And you got it back over at the county. You just briefly, went through it. You didn't go through one by one. And you came up with 30 more.
Mhm.
What happened?
That's a great question. I don't know the specific process on how the city reviews the signatures, but what we do at the county is a couple of things. So first, when we go through them, the first thing we do the preliminary check. So we check at the beginning, then it goes to the city, and then we do a final check. Our preliminary check is we're looking for all of the procedural things, right? Does it have the right heading? Does each one say that they're recalling Liddell Lewis 2nd Ward, or does one sheet say Dennis Pfeiffer? That sheet don't count if it sends a different name.
Right.
It's got to be the exact language that was approved by the election commission. So we're looking at each page. Is it the exact language, word for word? Every comma, every period's the same. It's the same language. Okay, that's good. Then we look at the bottom of the sheet. The bottom of the sheet, was that filled out by the person that collected the signatures? Their name, printed and signed, their address, and the date. If those things are missing, that whole sheet gets thrown out. Then we look through each one of them to make sure that each element is filled in. They typed their name, they printed their name, they signed their name, they put a complete address, and the date that they signed the petition, not their birthday,
Right.
the date that you signed the petition. And if it's got all of those pieces there, we move it on. If not, we mark that when it's missing something, it doesn't get counted. Then we send them all to the city clerk. What they are to do is they are supposed to look up each address, make sure they're registered to vote, and make sure that they live in the proper ward. And the process that they do that, I am not sure.
Okay.
There is the state QVF system. That is the easiest way to do it. And that system has been updated so it shows both the new ward and the old ward. So you can look into that old ward, you can type someone's name and they live in the old ward. We can count it, we can't count it, they're registered to vote or not. So what we did in this case, because there was so much confusion with this new ward and old ward and the state was still updating their system, is when the city got done with their work, we took it all in. And we took every signature that the city threw out. And we said, let's double check these ones. We also did a quick review on the ones that they said were good. But the ones that they threw out, we actually put in a spreadsheet. And we sent that to a whole nother department. We sent that to our GIS department, Geographic Information Systems. They're the map makers. And we sent them that spreadsheet. And we said, I want you to put all of these addresses that were no good and put them on a map. I want a dot on the map. And then I want to overlay these old wards and tell us what's good and what's bad. And we did that with a lot of the good ones too. The good ones that they said were good for the most part were good. Some good ones that there were some good ones in the ward that were not accepted. And we also didn't accept because, the address was in the ward. They weren't registered to vote.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the address was in the ward. They didn't sign their name. Okay. Yeah, the address was in the ward. They put their birth date and not the date that they signed. Those things don't count. The other thing in the state law, and I disagree with it, but it's what the state law is if you, Wences Hall, go and sign a petition for a recall and you forget that you signed it and you come back 2 weeks later and you sign it again, state law says neither one of those signatures count.
Wow, really?
No duplicates count, the original or the second one. Okay. And when I didn't know this at first. We actually went back and forth to the state because I said that doesn't make sense. You should count the first one, not the second one. The state said no, you don't count either one of them. So that affords some being thrown out. Now the ones that the city threw out, I again don't know if they weren't looking at the right system or not, but we mapped them out. So we did find some that we said, these are close, and some of them they were right on the boundary, right? And some of them that they threw out, there were some questions about that we even had to ask the state on, right? We had one signature, for instance, of someone that was deceased. Now, the conversation we had with the state with this is
That's strange.
That's
suspicious.
It wasn't that somebody that was dead signed the petition. What happened was somebody signed a petition and then they died. Because in the county clerk's office, we do death records. So we can see the date of death. Someone's marked as dead. So we looked that up and we had to talk to the state. The city said, that's a dead person. We can't count a dead signature. In conversations with the state, no law was broken. The person was alive when they signed it.
Okay.
And then they passed away. The other thing is those signatures have to match. So if the signature that's on your driver's license, that's the signature that is in the state system I keep talking about. So if you have your spouse, if someone's husband signs their signature and that signature doesn't match, it don't count. In fact, it is illegal for someone to sign someone else's name. A wife cannot sign for her husband. A husband cannot sign for his wife. A parent cannot sign for their child. You has to be your own signature. Now, people's signature do change over time for illness, stroke, sickness, whatever. People just get older. What we always tell folks is that's why you have to renew your driver's license every so often. When you do that, you should be putting a new signature down so that we have that signature match. The signature that I had at 18 is not the signature I have now at 30,
right? Which
won't be the signature that I have in 30 years when I turn 60.
Absolutely.
So that's why we have to update that, because if those signatures don't match, if it's real close, the city clerk will probably say yeah. But if you have this real fancy signed out signature and you sign a petition in the signature part with a printed name, it doesn't matter where you live, that's not going to get counted. So anyways, going back to what we did at the county, we mapped them all out. And we saw some that were right there, on the line. We had to look real close. But we also saw signatures that people signed that were really excited maybe about these recalls, maybe live somewhere, but it wasn't where they're registered to vote. And when you map it, we're like, why are there people on the east side of Flint signing a recall for Liddell Lewis?
Right.
Why are there people in Mount Morris signing this recall? Right? You got to live in the ward.
Right.
And maybe they did, but they didn't change their voter registration. You have to be registered to vote. So that's where there's that difference that happened, is when we had that double check. We noticed that and we said, we're going to count these extra ones. I cannot explain. I do not know why or how the city came up with the numbers that they came up with. I can only say what my office did and how we did that. And when I say my office and how we did it, the other thing I want to put out there is that I have a staff of directly that I oversee of 20 and another 20 staff in the court that I provide some oversight on. So it's not me sitting there going through signature by signature by signature. I have 4 people in our elections division. They're the ones doing all of that work. And that creates another layer too, right? If it's me as one person, the county clerk, going through every one of these 700 signatures, my eyes are going to get tired. There's going to be a strain.
Absolutely.
We break it up between our office staff, or the 4 staff in our elections division. They review it. They hand it over to someone else to do a second check of it. Then we had the GIS department put it in the map. I didn't get involved with the signature until there was one where it said, these signatures don't look right, or this address seems wrong. And then I came in as that third check of like, yeah, this one will or won't count, or we're going to overturn one. That's when I came in. I'm not sitting going through signature by signature.
I got you, but I got a question.
I was just about to ask you if you had questions,
I
man.
know I'm finna get this because we had a problem with, I hate to bring this up, but I just got to do it. What our clerk's office with Liddell, when we knew she didn't stay there for 12 months, that you got to stay there, and she still was able to get on the ballot for run for that second ward. How can you just slip through that? And I remember Miss Inez Brown, when she was leaving, saying they needed to be more, but how can that just you fall through the cracks like that?
Right.
And you still get on the ballot, ain't nothing. And it's just like, okay, we made them. We did this. We need to start doing better the next time. Like,
yeah, absolutely. So when somebody runs for city office, they file at the city clerk's office. It is the city clerk's job to make sure that they meet all of the requirements. That's what you mentioned. The 12-month residency requirement is something that's in the city charter. So that's something the city sets. And the clerk has to go and look for that. And they need to be registered to vote in there. Now, where our argument could be made or not is that they have to live in the city or be registered to vote in the city for 12 months. But either way, the city clerk needs to be doing their due diligence and checking that. I don't know who in their office does that process of certifying candidates, especially in 2021 when this happened. But if somebody's ineligible, the city clerk needs to not approve their candidate filing. And if it gets discovered years after the fact, if someone believes that a crime was committed, that should be reported through reporting agency, through the police, or through the Secretary of State, the Bureau of Elections, on that.
Not to cut you off, reason I say that because her opponent who was running was saying this. It was just like it was falling on deaf ears. And it's like, and we've been having problems out that clerk office. This ain't started this year.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? From what I've been hearing the people cry, not that I've been, because I don't deal with the clerk office, but just hearing everybody it's always these discrepancies coming up, and it's like, you know,
We'll do better next time. We'll do it better next time.
It keep getting pushed down. It's like,
yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. We've got 28 municipalities in Genesee County. And it almost goes without saying, every year there's going to be some kind of issue with what happens in the city of Flint. Now, the city of Flint is not the only not the only city or township in the county that has issues, but it's the biggest, and oftentimes the issues are most glaring.
I mean, we had an election get certified. The mayoral election got certified in, what was it, 6 out of the 8 absentee ballot canisters weren't even sealed properly.
Exactly.
How does that happen? Another question.
And one of the things I want to add to that. So, what state law says about elections, specifically those election workers? Because a big part of this, when you're talking about filing, if someone's eligible to be on the ballot or not, that's the city clerk's office and those full-time staff in the city clerk's office. When you're talking about absentee voting and the vote counting, and if a bag was sealed or not properly, that's the poll workers. These people that work just the election, right? They're not the clerk's everyday staff. Those poll workers, the state requires them to go through a training. And what the state law says is if you have a population over 10,000, the city or the township clerk can provide that training. If the population is under 10,000, the county clerk provides that training. So we know, and I'm not putting any blame on anyone,
Right.
the city and the county have had a pretty tumultuous relationship when it comes to the clerks. The former city clerk and the former county clerk, they didn't get along. They butted heads, and they were unwilling to work together and help people. When I became county clerk at the end of 2022, and really started working in 2023, I reached out to all of our cities and townships. And I said, I realize a lot of you have more than 10,000 voters, right? The city of Flint does, Grand Blanc Township does, Burton does, a lot of them do, Davison. But I said, it doesn't make sense for 28 different clerks, maybe half of them are over 10,000, maybe a little less, for us all to do our own training and do things just a little bit differently. And each of those little bit differently still might be within the law, but it gets confusing for voters when I live here and I have to do it this way, and I go to the next community and they do it just a little bit different. So one of the things I worked really hard with our city and township clerks was, let's do one training. So this year,
Makes sense.
this year in 2023, we started offering across the entire county election working training that was conducted and held by my office. I got certified by the state to lead the training. We invited other clerks to come in and help provide the training. Folks that had been there for a while, had experience. We had the deputy clerk in one township and then a city clerk in a different city, not the city of Flint, come and be trainers. These folks are part of the training committee of the State Clerks Association, so they know their stuff. And we offered that training. Now, again, I can't require anyone to go to my training, but we said, I'm going to offer this training. I'm going to ask every city and township to please send your folks to our training.
Did Flint show up?
Flint has been sending folks to our training. And that's been one of the things that's been really eye-opening is a lot of these Flint poll workers have come in and we're running through this training. The response has been, wow, I've been an election worker for 20 years. I didn't know that.
We need all of them to come.
That's right. And there's a
It should be
certification process.
mandatory.
All of them have to go through a certification. So to my knowledge, I don't think the city is offering their own certification this year. So they all that need to be recertified, because when they get recertified staggered, it's your certification is good for a number of years. So we're offering that training and that support. Now, a lot of the cities are taking our training and saying, hey, go to this training. And then afterwards, we're going to give you another training. And that second training, we're going to get hands-on with the equipment. I don't know if the city's doing that or not. But also, once we provide that training, we need the support of the city and township clerks to say, you've been trained this way, now do it this way.
Right.
And
right,
be hands-on.
right.
And make sure that we're reviewing the process. I get the city of Flint is a big city. They've got a lot of precincts. It's much easier for Swartz Creek that has 3 precincts and 1 polling location for that clerk to be laser focused on it because she can sit right there and see all the precincts, right?
Mhm.
I know the Flint city clerk can't be at all 29 precincts at however many voting locations they have at the same time.
But damn it, you can ride around all day.
But you can ride around.
Inez did it.
Inez did that. You've got staff. I don't know if this current city clerk is doing that or not, how involved or hands-on. I know that their office is working and they've been open to communication with us. Again, they're letting us lead that training. I think that's going to make a difference. We saw a difference in February. In the February election, we did see less problems from the city of Flint than we have in past elections. They've gone through that group training. But there are still challenges. There are still issues. There are still precincts that the Board of Canvassers determined were out of balance or unrecountable. Not because anything nefarious happened, right? But because somebody didn't sign their name at the right spot, right? Some of these simple mistakes are still happening. So we're continuing to train. We're continuing to train, provide more resources. I go to a lot of trainings with the state. We have the County Clerks Association. I actually just got back this morning. I was in Lansing with the United County Government Officials where we did a lot of election trainings and talks around that.
Flint there.
So this was just for the counties. This was the county clerks.
Can't you just take her?
I can't bring a city officer to the county
Okay.
training, but I say all that to say there's also an association for municipal clerks,
Mhm.
the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks. And I know the city of Flint is members of that association. So I'm hopeful that they're going to their own respective trainings and getting that learning and getting that education, because there's a lot of processes to elections. But that's also why we have the 3 different layers, right? I am not going to sit and pretend that I am an expert in the day-to-day operations of elections and opening and closing a polling location and how to hire your poll workers, because that is a city duty.
Right.
But what I can tell you is I know pretty well my duties as county clerk, and I'm going to continue to train and continue to train to learn how to do my duties better when it comes to a recount, when it comes to taking campaign finance filings, when it comes to printing and producing the ballots and making sure that they get to the cities on time, which has been a big issue in the county in past elections, where the county wasn't even getting the ballots to the city in time to mail them out properly.
Right.
So we can't do that. We're going to do our part here. We're going to mitigate as much risk and solve as many problems we can at the county level. Fortunately, I can't control the city,
Absolutely. I know.
but I can provide them, if we do things right on our side of things, they're getting something packaged that is in a better spot than when it was already wrong when the city got it. Now the city's getting it right. Now we're providing them opportunities for resources and training. We're connecting them with their state associations. So the resources and tools are out there. You can lead a horse to water. You
But
can't make them
them
drink.
Right. So the absentee ballots, you brought that up. When you go so they updated the voter registration in the
Mhm.
computer system for the state, because I actually went out with Dr. Weaver. I've said it plenty of times on here. Absentee ballot mailed to a house that was not there.
Mhm.
It's returned to sender. What
Mhm.
are they supposed to do with those ballots?
So when they get returned to the city in that envelope, returned to sender, they keep them, and
Supposed to keep them.
they're supposed to keep them. Yes. So all ballots get kept for a period of time. After the election is over, everything is blank ballots, voted ballots, ballots that got mailed back are all sealed and secured. And then after a specific amount of time, depending on what type of election, local versus a federal election, a certain amount of time passes. So with like a federal election, I think it's 18 months or 2 years. Don't quote me on that. Once that time elapses, then the city has to destroy the ballots, shred them, destroy them, make room for the next retention of 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you also you go the extra mile. We already established that by all the steps that you have taken.
Mhm.
So another question, it was kind of funny to a lot of people. You got it. You did your preliminary view of the past recall for Liddell, and then the city had it for over 20 plus days, and then you got it back, and in 2 days you found 30 additional signatures. They could have did 10 a day. They could have went to each house. I mean, so we've talked about all the problems, but if you were to be Davina, how would you correct this mass confusion that is going through the city right now, with even her saying the cards shouldn't have been sent out? Well, somebody had to approve them. Who approved for these cards to get sent out, and how would you correct it?
So at the very base of that, I keep hounding on training. That's a big piece of it. It's not only enough for the city clerk to go to training, but to bring that training back and to make sure that your staff is trained. When you have staff in a clerk's office that have been there for a long time, good or bad, they're going to get set in their ways, that they've always done things a certain way. They need to be retrained and they need to be held accountable. If your staff aren't doing something correctly, there are certain discipline processes that need to happen rather than letting the same thing happen again and again. I'm trying the best within what I'm allowed to do in my office to provide information on what's happening with these Flint recalls, putting together this site so people can see the different maps, a link to where they can go and see where the registration stands. If I were the city clerk, outside of the voter registration cards that were sent out that need to say the current voting location, I would send a postcard out to the ward that has a recall. Everyone that lives in the old 9th ward, I'd put a postcard and say,
Davina, you
have
hear
an
that?
election.
Send a postcard out. Fix what you done messed up, Davina. I know y'all watching in the clerk's office. I don't care who watching. Just get the word to Davina. Send a postcard out to the 9th ward. Let them know who can vote, who can't vote. That's a good idea. Okay, go ahead.
So that's a big thing. I don't know what the resources are of the clerk's office or the city clerk. I don't know what their budget is, if they have the budget to do that or not. But also the city clerk reports to Flint City Council. So if there's not the resources there, the city can provide those resources if they have them to do that. To send out a postcard to the however many 100,000, whatever.
Oh, they got plenty. The council got plenty envelopes and stuff they can pack the
to
mailboxes
send that
with.
out to say, hey, and I know other communities have done this. So the
Mhm.
example, and it's not statutorily required that they send out a postcard, but I'm going to use Swartz Creek as an example, and it's completely different, but it gives a similarity. When the 9 days of early voting went into place, there was a lot of questions about that. And what the city of Swartz Creek did is they sent out a postcard saying, here's your 9 days of early voting, the one site we have in this city for you to vote for those 9 days. And here's what that process looks like. They went above and beyond to do that. So that is something that is in the power of the city clerk in conjunction with the council to make sure that good information gets out there. Meanwhile, no matter what they do or don't do, I'm going to continue to provide information where I can, going on shows like this, working with the League of Women Voters, working with the ACLU. I've been working really closely with them to help make sure that people know, at the very basics, regardless of old ward, new ward, whatever ward, that there's an election. Because May, most of us aren't used to going out and voting in May.
Right.
I got
And
one question for you. Not
Go
to
ahead.
cut you off.
Yeah.
So Melissa just moved. I think she was in the 8th ward, 6th ward or something. She moved to the 1st ward. So what will she vote at? Would she? Cause she just moved. I don't know. She been in the 1st ward for 30 days now. Cause she just since I moved
I
to a
don't think it's
different
been
ward, do I have
30
to
days.
re-register again?
Yes. The short answer is yes. So when you move, even if it's within the same ward, you
Gotcha.
need to update your voter registration.
Gotcha.
So your voter registration should match your current address where you're currently living. You can do that by going into the Flint City Clerk's office. You can fill out a voter registration form and mail it to the Flint City Clerk's office. You can mail that registration or bring it to my office, the county clerk's office.
Gotcha.
Now, if you mail it to my office, don't think because you're mailing it to me, I'm going to process it and it fixes a situation I have to deal with the city. I'm not allowed statutorily to process local voter registration.
Gotcha.
You send it to me, we sort them out to each city or township, and we give them to the city or township. The reason why that's allowed to do that is we have organizations, right, that will go out and collect mass voter registrations. Rock the Vote does it, League of Women Voters does it, ACLU does it. Both political parties, they get voter registrations. And rather than those organizations having to go to 28 different municipalities, they'll bring them all to the county clerk, sorry. And then we will divvy them out to the right local clerk. But you do need to update your voter registration every time that you move. That is the record of where you go to vote. If you don't update your registration, the system still thinks you live at your old address.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, she said thanks too anyway.
Yep.
She said, got it, thanks.
All right. So we are ready to take some calls. So the phone lines will be open. If you take a few calls, you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Okay. 810-207-5058. Flint, please take this opportunity to call in and get your questions asked. Let me see. I have a question that was sent to me. I think you answered this. When signing a recall petition, if you sign your name in the print spot and print your name in the sign spot, does that disqualify your signature in the recall petition?
So they're saying to you, they flip where the
Right.
sign and the print is.
Right.
So what I always tell folks is, first and foremost, read it carefully before you fill it out, so you fill things out in the right section.
Mhm.
I will look and I will get that a solid answer for you. I don't want to just
Right.
say an assumption. I think it would be accepted as long as it has both the signature and the printed, but I have to double check on that, and I will shoot you a message and I'll let you know so we get
Okay.
you the 100% answer, not just
Thank
the I
you.
think
Because
answer.
sometimes I just sign and I'm like, oh, I was supposed to print, and then
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
But thanks. Okay, let's get.
That's
to
a
the
good
calls.
question. We'll follow up with that one.
Thank you.
The call will start at the beep.
Good morning, caller. You've been bumped in. What's your name and where you calling from?
Michelle Young,
Hi,
calling
Michelle.
from the 6th Ward.
Hello, dear.
So I have two questions. First, I want to verify, and you might have went over this. I didn't get the start of the meeting. When you go to get your driver's license or state ID, are you now automatically registered to vote, or is it still a separate transaction like it was, I guess, when I got my voter's registration?
So that I not positive on the answer to that, if on what the Secretary of State's procedures are at the state level. I know you can register to vote at the Secretary of State's office, and then they will send that to the local clerk. I don't know if they do it automatically though.
Okay.
Okay, I was told recently that it was changed now that if you, like a high school student right now, if they got their driver's license, they're automatically registered to vote. But I wanted to know when that started so that people who assume they're registered to vote will know they're probably not registered. So if you can find that out, that would be great.
Absolutely.
information
Absolutely.
For everybody.
And in the meantime, anyone who's unsure if they're registered or to vote or not can look that up online at michigan.gov/vote.
Did you get that,
Okay.
Michelle? But he's
Yes,
gonna
I
he's gonna
did.
find out. Okay.
Okay, second question I have, that Flint portal. They have a Flint portal that tells you if you put in an address, it'll tell you what ward it's in. Now, I know you're Genesee County, you're not part of Flint, but is that information correct now for
to update, they'll bring them all.
the new voting that'll be happening in May and then again in August? Or could it possibly be the new zone? I mean, how do we
So where is
verify
this
that?
where is this Flint portal? Is this on the city's website?
I don't know. I got it some kind of way, and I have it on my phone, and it's the City of Flint portal, and you can put an address in, and it'll tell you what ward you're in.
That I don't
So
I don't know
get
what
it
the
off
portal is.
website.
My guess is it's probably showing the new ward though, not the old ward.
Wow.
So the city
They should
actually
not have that
updated,
out.
right?
Mhm.
They updated everything 2 years in advance for some reason. Okay.
So for people who are getting signatures, is there another way other than having a hand map to verify that the address they're at is in the old ward, or there's no digital way to do it?
So if they know the person's well, that's only on the active ballot. So we provide the list of voters by precinct. You'd have to look at the map. Right now, I don't know of a digital way to do that. We're having conversations with our GIS department to see what we can do at the county. I've had multiple conversations with the state and making sure that their that site I give, michigan.gov/vote, that it shows the right data. But to my knowledge, right now, I don't know of a system that you can put in the address and it shows you the old wards. I'll keep pushing to make that happen, and if I find one that's already out there, I will certainly share that information along.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Linkus,
Yes.
if you can send me a text, I will send you that link so you guys can actually see it, this Flint portal.
Okay, I will.
And then you can put an address in it and see how it works, and we can see if it's showing the old address or new address or what have you.
Okay. I do got some. I got some more callers, Michelle. Can we get to the rest of these callers first?
Yes, I'll call back. But I have some questions about training that they can give us.
Okay. All right. Let me get the rest of these callers, and then you can call back in. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Oh shoot! She hung up, and I hung up on the other caller. Caller, call back. Callers, call back. 810-207-5058. Mickey, you got anything else? So okay, well, here's another. I had a question coming up, but here's a caller.
Calling. Press 1 to start the call. The call will start at the beep.
Good morning, caller. You've been bumped in. What's your name and where you calling from?
My name is Beverly Biggs Levy. I'm calling from Flint, Michigan.
Good morning, Miss Beverly.
The city has got the people so confused that we have been going out in this area, which is the third ward that you guys gave Liddell, the second ward over in that same area, saying that Liddell is their council person, but Liddell is not their council person until 2026. So these people want to know why they get new cards saying that they're in the second ward when it's the third ward to do a recall. That is so confusing.
It is.
Absolutely. It is
And
confusing.
nobody is sending out anything saying you guys are in the third ward. You can third ward until 2026. Lavinia and them got this stuff so screwed up to I'm going to Lansing about it because you're confusing the people. And I think that's what they want to do is keep confusing the people.
I agree with you. He may not could say it, but I agree with you. It's very confusing.
It is confusing.
And unfortunately, you know, like Dominique said earlier, he doesn't have control over that office. So I think going to the state would be, you know, a solution.
Absolutely. And I know that's something that we've been having conversations with the state. I've asked them before even all this happened, from other stuff that was happening in Flint, I've asked the state to come in and be a part of the process. When we had issues before I was clerk, back in the last election, when absentee voting containers weren't properly sealed, we asked the state for involvement. With all of this coming in, we asked the state for clarification on this. With other things that are happening with council members and what they're representing and what they're saying, asking the state, I'm continuing to do that. I would ask other folks to do that. I also want to say real quickly, because I did pull up the information. This is from the Secretary of State's website, which is the state branch. And they do have automatic voter registration. It says it gives all eligible citizens the opportunity to be automatically registered to vote unless they decline. It'll change your voter registration from opt-in to opt-out during all personal identification transactions. So if you go to the Secretary of State's website or in person for a transaction, new driver's license, getting a driver's license, unless you opt out, it says they are registering you to vote. Again, still double check that. It does take a little bit of time. You go into the Secretary of State's office. This is saying here that you're going to get automatically registered. In a month later, look online, or 2 weeks later, look online to make sure it went through. Yep.
Right. Okay. All right, Ms. Beverly, did you have any more questions?
No, that was it.
All right. Thank you so much. Flint, you're doing good. Keep calling. 810-207-5058.
What about the president election? For the people of these same wards is confused. It's in there in the second and they still in the third.
Anybody can vote for the
So
president.
there
Can.
ain't no problem with that, right?
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Where you going?
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Decline. Press 1 to start the call. Choose the call will start at the beep.
Good morning, call. You've been bumped in. What's your name and where you calling from?
Hey, how you doing? This Richie Rich.
Hey,
How y'all
Rich.
doing?
Hey.
Hey, what's up, Miss Biggs? I know you still paying attention.
Okay, we talking to Dominique now.
I know she wasn't. I know we talking to Dominique, and this is how I feel about communication. It should have been 6 phone calls to those whose phone numbers is registered. It should have been 6 emails to every one of those registered voters. And it should have been 6 mailings to every one of those registered voters. And I'm talking about the ones that can vote May the 9th. And those 6 of everything should have been 2 from the city clerk, 2 from the Secretary of State, and 2 from the county clerk. Because just because one person said, and then in this situation, they didn't send out 2 voter registration cards that are wrong.
They sure have. Yeah. Once last year.
The
One this year.
the county is clear that whatever the county is using to judge, the city ain't using to judge, as far as validation of signatures and registered voters.
That's apparent.
Whatever the city is using, the state ain't using. Just like Dominique just said, you can go and register on the state. Let's do a test. I want people to do some kind of change or something like change from A to B on the state, register on the state A to B. That'll get 100 unregistered voters in the city of Flint to register on that state website. And then let's go and get what the city of Flint uses to see whether or not you are a registered voter. See if those 100 people is on that list. It's a bunch of confusion.
Right. So did you have any questions specifically for Dominique? Like,
Yeah, Dominique, what do the citizens have to do to start getting this kind of movement from the county clerk, the city clerk, and the secretary, and our state election people?
Mhm.
because you know they wrapping you up in this. They wrapping
I
you
get
up
it.
in this as the county clerk.
So as
Well,
Well, I'm just telling. I'm letting them know.
I'm saying communication, and Dominique already explained to me the reason why they haven't sent out any notification to the 9th Ward voters. But what I'm asking is, what do the citizens have to do to make sure that, and because we got a first ward election coming up,
Mhm.
we got a 7th ward election coming up.
Yes, you do. Yep. Yep. All
So we
confused.
gonna go into these same 2 wards talking about such and such is my city council person, not something. You know what I'm saying? Because their was just different too.
That's a good question, Rich.
Mhm.
All right. Well, let him answer that. Thank you, Rich.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. So as I mentioned, I've continued to post information about what's happening online. I'm going on these shows, having this conversation. Any organization that wants to bring me out, I will go to block clubs. I've worked with, like I said, the League of Women Voters, ACLU, to go out and share that information, public libraries, wherever, because not everyone's online. Me as the county clerk, I do not have the authority to send mail directly to voters. That is the city or township's job to do that. As far as what voters can do to get the city, in this case, we're talking the city of Flint,
Right.
to send something out, to communicate, to update their website. The city clerk, yes, they are appointed. The city clerk is not directly elected, but the city clerk is appointed by elected officials, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have 9 city council members.
Mhm.
They have oversight over that clerk. They can direct
Come
funds.
to a council meeting today.
You can call your council member. You can go to a council meeting, give public comment, ask them to provide the clerk the resources to do that. Ask them to have the clerk send out a mailer to all of the voters in that ward. I don't know what the city maintains as far as phone numbers or not. If they could do a calling, do a robocall out, put it on the emergency system. I don't know what they're allowed to do or not do. But as citizens, the government is responsive to you
Right.
within what they're allowed to do in their legal bounds. Same thing at the state level. The Secretary of State is an elected office. They have a phone number to call. I shouldn't necessarily be the only one making the call to that office asking for help. If we all have the concern, the residents, we should call and say, hey, we need help with oversight from the city of Flint. The city of Flint's not on their business.
Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna let you finish that. I just didn't
And that
want
was
to
it.
miss the
That was
phone.
finished.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Good morning, caller. You've been bumped in. What's your name and where you calling from?
This is Jasmine.
Hi, Jasmine.
Hi, I'm calling from Flint. I do have a question, and I want to thank you and Clerk Clemens for this opportunity. Is he aware of any rule, and I might have missed it because I've been in and out, but is he aware of a rule about paying your water bill and your taxes in order to be able to run for office?
Mm.
So I believe that is a specific city ordinance as part of the Home Rule Act. I don't know that is, if that's a state law or not. I think that's a city requirement.
Mm.
But
Good question,
I
Jasmine.
could be wrong, and I will double check on that too. But I am not aware specifically of that. But I do know that was a conversation that came up with this first ward, that people were being
Eliminated.
What I do know at the county process, and in state laws, you cannot run for office if you have previously ran for office and owe campaign finance fees.
Okay.
And when you file for office, you actually have to sign that says you don't owe any campaign finance fees, under penalty of perjury. If you do owe campaign finance statements and fees, you cannot run for office. And if you illegally sign that, we report that over. But as far as the city of Flint, what their specific rules are through the Home Rule Act and through their charter, I don't know.
Okay. Any more questions, Jasmine? That was a good one.
No, just again, I appreciate you guys, and I'm very proud of Clerk London.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We are all proud of him.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jasmine. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
So again, the city is, I can say a lot of things you can't. Voter suppression is what it seems like to me. When you add on additional qualifications, you can't run for office unless and you're in the first ward. You got to remember, Flint is one of the most poverty-stricken cities in Michigan. So when you add on qualifications like you can't run for office unless you pay your taxes, they're paid up, unless your water bill is paid up, you are suppressing voters. You are suppressing the democratic process. It's your right to run for office. I don't care if none of my bills are paid. That it just doesn't make sense to me. And then just to have it all of a sudden right now, it's things like Flint needs to get up out of their seat and start going. Even if the state doesn't do anything, you got to make a record of something. Make a complaint. We must do something. This is a voter suppression. Just like Rich said, half the city already going to be confused for the 9th Ward election. Now we have the 1st Ward election coming up, special election, the 7th Ward special election coming up. Confusion. You don't know what ward you stay in. They have sent out 2 voter registration cards saying that you stay in a new ward that's not supposed to go into effect until 2026. And the city clerk is saying, I don't know why they were sent out. Damn it, you the city clerk. Send out something else to correct it.
Now, the other thing that I want to add, because we talked about you all as the residents of Flint, you have the responsibility, but the power to hold our elected officials responsible and accountability. But the other thing is all of the stuff that we're talking voting rights, we're talking who's eligible to be on a ballot or not, recall processes. All of these are things that are laws and state laws. And if at any time any person has a belief or has evidence that they have seen a law being broken, that a crime has been committed, these crimes, they are crimes, right? If the law is broken, just like any other law, and those should be reported to law enforcement. I have on various different occasions between things that have happened in the city of Flint, I, from myself personally, know of at least 3 times where I've submitted police reports against things that are happening in the city. My office as the county clerk, we're not the investigative body. I don't have oversight over bodies. So I've been working with the agencies that do, submitting police reports saying this happened. I don't know what the intent was behind why it happened. But to my knowledge, it doesn't match what I know in the law in asking the police to investigate. I can't control if the police do or not, but like I said, on 3 occasions, I have submitted requests and have filed police reports on what I have believed has been wrongdoing. And I think everyone, if you believe a crime has been committed, to do that. Now, I will also caveat with that, you have to actually have a belief that a law was broken and a crime was committed. Don't start filing police reports just because you don't like someone. That's how you get yourself in trouble.
Right.
But if a law is broken, we need to be reporting that to the law enforcement agencies.
Absolutely.
And holding them accountable and asking them to come in and take a look at things.
Okay. Caller, you've been bumped in. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, y'all. This is Tia calling from here, there, and everywhere.
Hey, Tia.
Princess, I just want to say you are a gem. Girl, keep up the good work.
Dominique, you already know. You in there like swimwear. I'm loving you right now. Okay. I'm reading the latest comment on YouTube. And she said she was in the hospital and could not call it.
We can barely hear you, Tia.
Hold on one second. Let me. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, that's a lot better.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Oh shit. Hold on, let me grab this gift. Oh. Anyway, it's a lady. She said she's in the hospital. On the comments, her name is Give Me Ken. And she had a question for Dominique with his oath of office. If with his oath of office, hold on one second. Let me pull the question completely up. Okay. It says, I can't call from the hospital, but I want to ask Dominique why he hasn't reported Liddell for her potential crimes in April of 2021. He swore to an oath to report public officers' crimes if he sees it.
I don't think she signed that affidavit in the county clerk's office.
So that is
But I'll let
correct.
him answer.
An affidavit was not signed in my office. As I just mentioned in my last response, there are things that I have observed and witnessed that I think have broken law, and I have reported those things. When I am observation, when I have been witness to something that's happened, I have reported those things. I just mentioned I have filed multiple police reports on the election process in Genesee County asking for investigation, as should any other voter. However, if somebody brings something to me and says, I think this crime has happened, I myself have not been a witness. I have not evidenced that. I can't make a police report on someone else's behalf. They
Right.
have to do that.
Makes sense.
Now, when I'm observing things, I absolutely can. So who's to say that I have not already put in a report on these things? But if it's happening, more than one person can put in that report as well. It helps give that more credibility.
Right.
There was also a question that came up here about what happens when the police doesn't do anything. And quite frankly, that's a real question, right?
Right.
Now, for me personally, because some of the stuff was the city of Flint, some of it was other municipalities, I wasn't about to put my police report into Flint police.
Right.
Whatever the relationship is or isn't, I don't know. I'm not going to make any assumptions. I filed my reports with the state police. Some of those things they have started looking into. Some of them they have not. But I think that's a great question. What happens when we put in a police report and your local police aren't doing anything? Potentially your state police aren't doing something. I don't have the answer to that. But I am a voter of Genesee County. I'm a citizen here, just as most of the folks on this call that are watching. They're responsible to us. We need to hold them accountable and go through those chains and ask, if this is being reported, why aren't we looking into it?
All right.
What I do know about police agencies, though, are sometimes they do an investigation and they look into something. They don't necessarily, because you called, tell you what everything is happening in that investigation. But then there's another step that has to happen. If a police investigation does happen, a crime is committed. And I'm not just talking about elections. We're talking broadly here. We also need to make sure that we have people in place in public office that are then going to prosecute and charge those crimes.
Absolutely. Okay. Tia, did you have another question? Because we got some more callers.
I do. She said, Winston Hall, can you ask Dominique how often he talked to Tim Herman and when was the last time and why?
Now, that has nothing to do with why he's here today. So, no, I'm not going to ask him that.
Oh, okay. She said, Tia Austin, ask why he hasn't. What? Oh, she said she lied about being registered for 12 months. She lied about owing no debt to the city. And she still takes homestead in Maryland. Ask him why. Who holds them accountable?
Again, as he previously stated, I can answer this for him because this is probably the third time that he said it. If it doesn't happen in the city clerk's office, he's not responsible. In the county clerk's office, he's not responsible for it. If she was to have signed those affidavits saying that she did all of those things, then it would be on him to report them. But it's left up to the city clerk. But again, he said, who's to say that he hasn't reported? He's not going to sit on here and tell us what he has and hasn't reported. But these things happen in the city. It falls on the city. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Thank you.
Dominique, look, I
Mhm.
thank you for Wences, and so like I said, y'all keep doing what you do. I just asked those questions for Emmy because I felt bad in the hospital. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye. All right. Anyone else? Oh, well, here we go.
Press 1 to start the call, or the call will start at the beep.
Good morning, caller. You've been bumped in. What's your name and where you calling from?
Well, good morning, Wences, and good morning, Clerk Dominique Clemens.
Good morning.
Good
This
morning.
is Jan Marie calling in.
Hi, Miss
I'm
Jen Marie.
7 toward. Good morning, Wences. How are you both?
Wonderful. Just
Great. Thank you so kindly for having our county clerk on today and for discussing the topics that you are. I just wanted to let you know that I did write to the city clerk on Monday requesting that a letter or postcard be sent to the residents of the 7th and 1st Ward who will be affected by the boundary changes. Everyone does need to be notified, particularly those who have been reassigned to another ward, that they will vote at their old ward. Now, in my case, in the 7th Ward, there's a smaller area of the 7th Ward that's being affected. So in that case, I would think that even if correspondence was sent only to those persons, that would be okay. It would save the city a lot of money in postage, et cetera, but it must be done. And I am waiting to hear back from the clerk. Hopefully others will speak to that issue, as you suggested, Wences, at the left turn this evening. It is very, very important.
Mhm.
On another note, Clerk Clemens mentioned that he has contacted the police as he has noticed irregularities regarding our elections. I have contacted the police. As a matter of fact, I visited our state police over a month ago when I found irregularities in the other candidates' nominating petitions, where I know as a matter of fact that she did not collect the signatures. Others did. However, she wrote her signature onto the petition, and that is illegal per the verbiage on the nominating petition. When I presented my concerns before the state police, I was told by them that there was nothing that they could do about it and referred me back to the Flint City Police. As I have learned previously, they're non-responsive or have been non-responsive to those concerns, and I believe our county clerk has experienced that. Could you offer perhaps another option at a higher level where we might take voter irregularities or crimes related to voter issues to a body or an office within the state for some sort of action? Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Jan Marie.
So as far as other bodies go, she's mentioned there's the Flint Police and your trust you may or may not have in them. She's mentioned the state police and what they've said they're willing or not willing to do. Also, there are ways on the Michigan Secretary of State's website where I believe they have a spot where you can report things. But the thing with that is, even if you report to the Secretary of State's office, they then refer it to state police. Because the county clerk, not the county clerk, the Secretary of State's office also doesn't have the power to charge someone with a crime, convict someone of a crime. Outside of that, I mean, I don't know what their involvement is. I don't know what jurisdiction they have. But the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, I have no idea if the FBI gets involved with this sorts of things or not. But those are at least the first things that come to my mind of other outlets to continue to report things that have already happened. As far as moving forward in the future and what should be done is holding, and I've said this before, holding our officials accountable, right? For right now, from today, we have a Flint City Clerk who that office is accepting people's filings for these special city council races and for these recalls. making sure that they're doing their due diligence in looking at the residency requirement that the city has, and making sure they're following those processes and procedures. And if not, bringing that up at a council meeting, asking the council members, why aren't you holding your city clerk accountable? As for myself, the full transparency is I am a directly elected clerk. I am the county clerk of Genesee County. I am responsive to the voters. I'm trying to, as I hear things from the voters, provide that information, provide that resource. If folks don't think I am doing the job properly, I am on the ballot this year in August and November, and they certainly can make that vote and make that decision. Or if they believe that I am doing something that's one of these crimes, send in that report as well. I am confident in myself right now that I have not broken any laws or committed any crimes, so I welcome any report or any investigation. I certainly am hoping that the state is going to come in and help the city of Flint. I've been continuing that conversation with the state elections office that our city clerk needs additional training, needs additional resources, needs guidance, but we also, as a community, we need the clarity. We need to know that our voting process is safe and secure, not only in the votes, but in the process leading up to that, and who does and doesn't have access to be on the ballot, who can be a candidate, new and old wards, and where recalls are happening. I'm going to continue to raise the flag, ring the whistle, and be vocal. If people don't like that and don't want to vote for me for that, then so be it. I'm just going to keep giving out the information, though.
Keep doing what you're doing. Good morning, caller. You've been bumped in. What's your name and where you calling from?
Good morning, Winters. Good morning, Mickey. Good morning, Commissioner Clemens.
Good morning.
This is Michelle Young calling back again.
Okay, Michelle.
And I just wanted to get some clarification on the training that you're going to have available for poll workers or future potential poll workers. Is there any way that you can give literature to 810 so that they can post it of different future training classes? Do you take groups of people? The reason I'm asking that is as a GM employee, we get every time we vote, we get that day off as a holiday. You could possibly get a lot of people to come and help with the process that understands processes and procedures where we won't have all the problems we had before. We just have to try to get like a Saturday when they all can come in and get trained. Not sure if it's like a 2-day training or what it is, but it would be great to get some literature about it. Also, if you can give us some literature about the website that you said we can check people's IDs, something they can put up across just like their morning bump call-in number. And then lastly, I asked if you could please summarize for everybody the lessons that we have learned maybe for that last recall and what we can do right now to ensure everyone's signature gets counted. Everyone's vote gets counted.
Great
Just some kind of summary for the citizens to know what we need to do.
Absolutely. So there's a lot
Thank
there.
you, Michelle. Thank you.
Let's start breaking that down. I certainly will continue to share with you the link to our website that has this information about the recalls. On that website includes the link where folks can check their voter registration. Again, that's michigan.gov/vote. Then you can click down and scroll to what you need. As far as election trainings go, that is currently the basic election training is a certification for poll workers. That is a 4-hour training. And we've been offering that once or twice a month since October of last year. Because it's not just for the city of Flint, it's the entire county.
Michigan.gov/vote.
Michigan.gov/vote. And I've already sent you the link to our page. I'm sure you can get that posted up as well. For the election trainings, you do need to be an election worker for that training because of the limited space that we have for that. We usually get between 70 and 150 people per training that we do. Because again, we're training all of these poll workers across the county. If you want to become a poll worker, and we need people to be poll workers in every community, not just Genesee County, across the state, we need poll workers, especially poll workers that are able to take the full day off to work the polls, but not just on election day. We have 9 days of early voting, which means we need poll workers for all 9 of those days. and there should be an equal balance of Democrats and Republicans. You don't have to live in the city of Flint to be a Flint poll worker.
Shut up.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be a
you've
poll
got to be a registered voter.
All right, then.
I'd encourage you to first reach out to your municipality. They might need help. But if you want to be a poll worker in the city of Flint, call the Flint City Clerk's office and tell them you'd like to be a poll worker. They'll get you on that list. As far as the training goes, if you're a poll
I gotta
worker,
call
the city clerk.
who? Never mind.
But if you want to be a poll worker in Davison, you can call the Davison clerk, right? You can be in multiple communities, and we're actually encouraging a lot of folks from different communities to cross over, because where we see that imbalance, for example, Argentine Township, that's the south side of our county.
Mhm.
That's a very Republican area.
Very.
They have an issue where they don't have enough Democrat poll workers. But in Flint, it's the opposite. We've got too many Democrats and not enough
Not enough,
Republican poll
right.
workers. So folks in Argentine, Republicans can come and work the Flint election. Folks in Flint can go work the Argentine election to help that balance. Now, once you're signed up as a poll worker and you want to get training from the county, you'll call our office. We're going to ask one of the first questions we ask is, what municipality are you signed up to be a poll worker at? Because once you get certified, we're going to send your certificate to that city or township, because they need that on their record for when audits happen. All of these people have gone through the certification training. So if you are already a poll worker, you probably know if your certification as a poll worker is coming up or not. I'm hoping your clerk has communicated that with you. But at any rate, if you are a poll worker and you want to sign up for a poll worker training, you can just contact our office, the election division at the county. That's 810-257-3283. As far as graphics go, we do have a graphic out on the county clerk Facebook page, Genesee County Clerk Register. I will share that with you, Winta, so you can share it with your viewers on when those poll worker trainings are. We are starting to, shouldn't say we're wrapping down, but we do have 1 or 2 each month from now through October before that election. Those will pick up again next election cycle. And like I said, we started this in October of last year, so we've already gone through hundreds of folks through these trainings that need to be recertified, and that happens every year. That last question that was asked was summary of what's happening with the recalls and what we're learning about this recall process. And to try not to go for a whole nother hour on that, just the highlights of it. We know that there's a process that a person that wants to start a recall has to get language approved. That language gets approved by the County Election Commission. That language has to be clear and it has to be factual. It cannot be a statement of opinion. It can't be, I don't like so-and-so. They're saying mean things. That's not a statement of fact. That is an opinion. Once that gets approved, there is a set amount of days that someone can go and collect signatures. The number of signatures that they need is a formula. It's 25% of votes cast for any candidate for governor in the last election for governor in what was that district. So we've seen in the city of Flint, that usually is going to range between 500 to 800, depending on how big the ward is and how many people voted for governor. Again, doesn't matter how many people voted for Democrat, Republican, third party. It's how many people voted in that election in that ward. 25% of that gets calculated, that number. For the second ward, it's 700 and some change. I don't remember the exact number. To get it on the ballot in the 9th ward, it was less. It was, I think, 500 and something. The 9th ward, even with the changes in the ward, they were successful, able to get enough signatures. I know there's efforts going on in multiple wards right now to do that. You can check the county website. We have that map visualization up so people can look and see what ward there is. I know there's some community leaders that are also taking the map and drawing on street maps so people can clearly see. Because sometimes it comes down to a street, right? If a street is the dividing line, one side of the street might be in one ward and one side might be another. And that has nothing to do with old or new. That's just, there's got to be the line somewhere. So we have to be cognizant of that. Now, for voters that may not be out collecting signatures, but wanting to sign or get asked to sign, there are some things that the voters need to be aware of. First of all, no matter what the petition is, because we've got petitions going around for a lot more than recalls right now. You're also going to see petitions going around across the entire state for ballot initiatives, that people want to put things on the ballot to change our state constitution and change our state laws. And one of the things that happens all the time, be it a recall, be it a ballot question, someone goes and gives you a 10-second synopsis, sign this to raise the minimum wage. And you think, well, that sounds good.
Yep, and you sign it.
But then you read that whole proposal and it might say something completely different. So no matter what it is, read the language on the recall or on the ballot petition question before you sign it. At the top, they have to put the approved language. Read that approved language. Read what name they say they're recalling or who they're trying to recall. That sometimes happened in other communities where they said they're trying to recall one person and it was for somebody else. So make sure as a voter that we're doing our homework and our immediate homework of looking at the sheet right there. I'm not saying you got to go home and think about it. I'm saying read what's in front of you. Once you've read it and it makes sense, it's up to par to what you want to sign.
Right.
Then you've got some steps that you have to make sure that you know you're doing when you're signing it. You have to print your name and you have to sign your name. A question often comes up, well, kids these days, they don't know cursive, or somebody that has a stroke, they might put an X or something. That signature has to match what is on your ID. If you are young and you don't sign in cursive and on your ID, when you got your driver's license, you signed your name in print, then that's your signature. It can be a print signature, but it's got to be what is on record on file. Printed name, whatever your signature is. Then you need to put your full address, and that address is where you live currently, but you also have to be registered to vote. It doesn't matter if you live in the second ward and you want to support a recall. If you're not registered to vote in the second ward, that signature does not count. Put your full name, print it, sign it, the address, be registered to vote. And then finally, one of the most common mistakes is that date section. What it's asking is the date that you signed the petition. Look at your phone, look at your watch. Today is April 17th. If I'm signing a petition today, I'm writing April 17th. I'm not writing my birthday. A lot of people write their birthday. The reason that we require that date on there is because the law says a signature is only good for so many days. They only have so many days to collect signatures.
Right.
So if you sign it, if I sign my birthday, I was born 30 years ago. Well, that's more than the 180-day limit. So I'm telling people I signed this 30 years ago. No, that's not going to count because it can only count within the last 180 days.
Gotcha. All right. Let's take this next caller. Good morning, caller. You've been bumped in. What's your name and where you calling from?
Hi, this is Jessica from California. So I just have a quick question about the criteria for a recall. So if you believe and have proof that your councilwoman has committed a crime, but the city attorney has indicated that she has not, does your belief that your councilwoman has committed a crime, does that meet the constitutive criteria for a recall, even if the city attorney disagrees?
So it depends on how you specify the language. And I have to be careful. I can't say too much because I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give legal advice. But again, the requirement for the election commission is that it is clear and factual. So if you write in your petition language, I believe my city council person committed a crime.
That's not factual.
That's not a fact. You're saying a belief. Now, if you're saying my city council person did X, Y, my city council person kicked a puppy, regardless if they are charged and convicted of that, you're making a statement of fact. Whether it's true or not, you're saying my city council person kicked a puppy. We would look at that. Is that a fact? Is that clear? Where we get a lot of folks that get their language denied is they want to write a whole paragraph explaining their why behind it. Make your statement. The ones that got approved, for example, on a lot of city council members. City council member so-and-so voted yes on this resolution.
It was a fact.
That is a fact, and it's clear if you got the right resolution number. That's what we're looking at.
With it.
Okay.
You can put some of them so-and-so. Go ahead.
That's what I was curious about, especially in the cases of the council people in the second and third wards. Again, I know you said explicitly that you are not a legal professional. My question is, if you're citing, hypothetically speaking, there were checks that people could put forth as proof of criminal activity. Could we state that as factual? And does that still meet the criteria for a recall, even if the city attorney has gone on record stating that behavior is perfectly legal?
So it doesn't matter if something was illegal or not, if it was a crime or not, to make it clear and factual. You can recall somebody. You could put on there, like I mentioned, that they voted yes on a
Thank you,
resolution.
Jessica.
You could put on there
No worries.
on Wednesday, April 17th, Genesee County Clerk wore a pink jacket. There is no crime against wearing a pink jacket. Some people might think it's a fashion crime. I shouldn't wear pink, but that's not a crime. You can
Right.
still recall me for that. You can put that in the language. Is it clear? Is it factual? Regardless of a crime was committed or not. In the case of crimes, that has been used as language for a recall. Leaving the city of Flint for a quick second and looking over in Burton. Burton City Council had a recall against a council member that got approved. They didn't end up collecting the signatures, but the language that was approved was the council member was charged with a DUI. He had not been convicted. He had not pled guilty, but he had a charge. That is a statement of fact. He was charged with this, right? It is a statement of fact that I'm wearing a pink jacket. That is a
Right.
statement of fact.
Right.
Doesn't matter the legality of it. You can be recalled in Michigan regardless if you've committed a crime or not. You can be recalled for a vote that you make on council, as long as the language is clear and easy for the voter to understand, and a statement of fact, not a statement of opinion. The election commission is likely to approve that language.
And spell right. Spelling counts.
Say it.
Mhm.
Spelled right. Especially the name of the person you're trying to recall.
I'm just saying. Mickey, did you have some questions?
Nah.
Oh, this no questions. All right, last call of the day.
Hit the beat.
Good morning, caller. You've been bumped in. What's your name and where you calling from?
How you doing? Good morning. My name is James, and I'm calling from Flint.
Good morning, James.
I just have one quick question. How long does a person have to stay in the ward to file recall language on a council person?
Good
And
question.
How many recall languages can be put in on a council person if they already have one that has been filed? And I'm gonna get off the phone.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm going to answer that second part first. Any resident that is a registered voter of a ward can file a recall against their elected official. Any person that's a resident of the state of Michigan can file a recall against the governor. Anyone that's a resident of the county can file a recall against me. And as far as how often you can do that, there is no limit. There's actually an example from outside of Genesee County. I don't remember what county it is. There was a gentleman that really disliked his council member. And every single day for a year, he filed new recall language against his council
Wow.
member.
Okay.
That is legally allowed. You
Okay.
can, in the same time, you can submit 5 in the same day if you want to. You can submit just 1. And they may get approved and they may not get approved. If one gets approved by Jane Doe and the next day Sammy comes in against the same council member with language, we can have more than one recall going for the same person. But here's where I'm going to caution the voters, right?
You can only sign.
Nope, you can sign multiple. They're all different recalls. You can only
Okay.
sign the same recall once.
Okay.
So if 3 different people are circulating 3 different petitions for the same council member, I'm going to look, oh, did I sign that one or did I sign that other one? You
Mhm.
sign that same one twice, it won't count. So that's something that we all have to think over. Is it beneficial to have 3 different recalls going for the same person? That might confuse the voters if they signed or not, or go through the process of one and then go through it together. Both are acceptable. You can file as many as you want, as many times as you want. The election commission will hear it, will approve it, will deny it. If it's approved, you can collect signatures. But also, I think the other good point to make is if there's multiple recall petitions for the same person, 3 different people are trying to recall, let's say Liddell Lewis, and they all are doing their own process. They can't turn all of them signatures in together and say, we've got enough signatures. Each one of those individual recalls need that number.
Okay.
So if that number is 700, person A's got to get 700, person B's got to get 700, person C's got to get 700. It doesn't matter that collectively they might have collected 1,000. Each one of them, because those are separate recalls for the same person.
Got you. Now you spoke earlier about you know about owing campaign finances on a county level. You can't run. So what if I owe campaign finances in another state and I move to Michigan? Does that count?
That's let me look at the form because it says it right on the form.
Okay. And also, can you come from another state and be a poll worker?
That is a question I don't know the answer to. I
Okay.
think you have to be a voter in the state of Michigan.
Okay.
But that is something I will add to my list and confirm back, send you a message.
Okay.
That's not what I wanted. Oh, my page does not match. All right. So this is what it says when someone's running for office on the campaign finance side of thing. I'm not talking about taxes and water bills. By signing, this is the affidavit, your filing statement.
Okay.
I certify that at this date, all statements, reports, late filing fees, and fines required of me or any candidate committee organized to support my election under the Michigan Campaign Finance Act have been filed and paid. And I am a United States citizen and meet the statutory and constitutional requirements for the office sought. And I acknowledge that making a false statement in this affidavit is perjury, a felony punishable by a fine of up to $1,000 or imprisonment for up to 5 years or both, and may result in my disqualification from the ballot. So that is what the language states. That would, again, have to go to court if that includes other states or not. I am not a lawyer, so I'm not going to try to interpret what the statute says, but that is the language that is on the form. That is what a candidate signs when they submit it. And this is the same form that the candidates today that are filing for Flint City Council, that's what they're going to turn to the city of Flint. That's what the city of Flint clerk is going to check. That is the form when a county commissioner wants to file. They file with me at the county. That is the form that they're going to fill out. This is the form that someone running for state representative is going to file at the state of Michigan. And I will send you over a copy of this form,
Okay.
just so folks can A, see it, but B, for folks out there that are making the decision to run for office, regardless if you think that your elected official is doing well or not, there are thousands of elected seats across the state of Michigan, right? We have all sorts of cities and townships. You have city councils. And if you live in a township, your township clerk, your township treasurer, your township supervisor are all elected. In cities, those are appointed positions. You elect a mayor. We've got county commissioners. We've got county clerks, county treasurers, county prosecutors, a county drain commissioner.
Yes.
School boards. There are hundreds of seats that are up on the ballot. And oftentimes, some of these seats, I have not seen it on Flint City Council, but I've seen in Genesee County, a seat comes open and nobody, I'm not even talking one person, nobody runs for it. Nobody at all. A lot of times this happens on school boards. A school board seat comes open, nobody runs. And when nobody runs, you all the voters don't have the opportunity to choose your best candidate. What happens when nobody runs is that then for a school board, the school board appoints someone to that seat.
Two last questions for you real quick. It was said that you didn't address the process of closing the polls. And then Dr. Padroni put up there, whatever happened to those 6 sheets that came up missing? Did they ever find those sheets?
So the process for closing the polls, and again, this is a process for the city and townships, so I am not as well versed in that as some of our county procedures. But what my understanding is the end of election night, and this is all a public process. You can be there and you can watch this go on. They are going to announce that the polls are closed. Once that happens, they begin their closing procedure. That closing procedure is a couple of things. They have a paper poll book that they have to balance to match what's in the computer and what comes out of the voting machine. When you put those ballots in at the end of the night, there's it looks like a receipt tape that says how many people voted that day, and it lists each race and who got what spots. A lot of cities or townships might even put that on the door so people can look at it while they're closing down. They have to look and make sure that all of that balances out, and they've got reports and notes to put, because sometimes it doesn't balance and there's a good reason that it doesn't balance. Oftentimes there's not good reason that it doesn't balance. But what would be a good reason where it doesn't balance? Somebody comes into a polling location, we give them a ballot, and that person, for whatever reason, sees a name and they just hate that person on the ballot. They get so mad they rip up that ballot. So now your voting machine is going to have one less ballot than what you gave out. But everyone in that polling location saw that person rip up that ballot, cause a scene. They're going to write that note of that. That note goes to the Board of Canvassers to explain this is why we're off by one ballot. Okay. We see that stuff happen. What's happened in the past in Flint is they're off by one and there's not that explanation. That's when it becomes a problem.
Right.
So the election workers, and when we train them, we tell them put everything in that remarks section. We don't care if it's too much information. Tell us what you had for lunch. If you need to do that to remember everything that happens, if somebody walks into the polling location that shouldn't, if they get turned away
Like the
for
mayor.
whatever reason, if you help someone do something, if the power goes out, if whatever happens, put it in that poll book so that our county board of canvassers and the state board of canvassers have those notes, that explanation of what happens. So they're doing that. They're printing out the tapes. Then they are going to put things into separate envelopes. There's one envelope that, well, first of all the envelopes get collected, they go from the polling location and they go to what's called the receiving board. The receiving board is at City Hall, and that's another set of poll workers. It's a second set of eyes that take in the material. They're going to take in the drive, the electronic data stick that came from the voting booth. They're taking the tapes that were printed out. They're taking that paper poll book, that electronic poll book, the laptop, and that's when we're making sure they're separated into 3 different envelopes. One envelope stays with the city clerk. There's a copy of everything that's in that poll book. There are carbon copied sheets. There's some of that stuff. That's one envelope. One envelope has the actual poll book and a printout of those tapes. Those come to the county clerk. There's a third envelope that has all of the same information that goes to the probate judge office. So now there's 3 different places where the exact same data is. And that's one of the security steps where if something happens, we've got these other pieces of information that have the same information on it that we can access. If when the city clerk or the township clerk is bringing over their envelope that's supposed to go to me, the county clerk, if they get into a car accident or something catastrophic happens, we've got the other copy at the clerk's office.
Okay.
We also have that data stick, and that's data stick when that comes in, that's what we plug in to show election results.
Okay.
So that is oversimplified what happens in the closing of the polls. And what was the second question that we had?
About the 6 signatures.
About them
Yeah.
6 signatures, yeah.
No, the 6
6
pages.
6 pages, yeah. So in the, I believe this was the first recall attempt
And I
against.
think when she meant closing of the polls, like, was it decreasing of the polling locations?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
I'm sorry.
think-
You should have stopped me. I'm talking
Well,
about
that's okay. We needed to
the
know that
election night
too.
procedure.
We need to know that too.
So as far as closing polling locations, changing them, that is something that happens by the city or the township. So the city clerk has to get that approved by the city election commission.
City.
And the city is not the only one that's reduced their number of precincts they've had. So previously, the state law was that they could have 2,499 voters in a precinct. And that's why you had the number of precincts that you had. But then we started doing mail-in voting and 9 days of early voting. And the state said, we don't need this many polling locations. 2,000 people aren't going to show up on election day. So we're going to make a precinct, which a precinct's just your voting area. Outside of precinct delegate, there's no official for a precinct, right? So now we can have up to 5,000 people in a precinct. So every community across the state has done a lot of consolidating. Grand Blanc Township, for example, I think they went down from 18 to 10, right? Flint went from 50 something to 29. The other interesting thing about Flint precincts, even with the old law, 2,499, just short of 2,500 voters in a precinct. We had precincts in Flint that had registered 30 voters. And now each one of those precincts is a voting machine, is a set of 4 or 5 poll workers. So if you've got that many precincts with 30 folks and 3 of them show up to vote, you've got 5 election workers waiting on for the entire day, 3 poll workers.
Right.
So that's a lot of resources, a lot of money.
Right.
So I believe that's probably part of the impetus, the decision of why the city made their precincts larger and closed certain ones so that they would have enough poll workers, that they didn't have to buy new equipment. It cuts costs. But one of the things that should be taken into consideration as they do that is where those polling locations are going to be. They had a couple of precincts that were super small and super close together. That might make sense to combine them. Some of them that might get combined may not make as much sense, and could have an impact, right? We want to make sure polling locations are accessible. They all have to be in a public type space, a community center, a church, a school. They can't be in a business, right? We can't.
You close one on Door Highway and you got to go all the way over to Holbrook.
Right. That's
not
a long
accessible,
distance.
right.
Yeah. We want it to be. I always tell our clerks, try to get it somewhere that's on a bus line, right? Because we know some people don't drive. It's got to be ADA compliant, so it's got to be a barrier-free space or space that has, if it's downstairs, an elevator that can fit a wheelchair, and that is state and federal law. Which I know of one precinct that got closed for that reason. That had been a precinct in the city of Flint for a long time that was not handicap accessible. So that one had to close.
Right.
Some other ones that got combined, I can't say for certain. I don't know where all the locations are, what those buildings look like, or are there decisions behind that. But that's kind of the background of the closing of polling locations.
Okay.
6 pages of signatures. I think it was the first recall against the second ward that we had this, where the petitioners collected all of their signatures, and again they turn them in at the county, and the county gives them to the city. Now, one of the things that I did that had not been done in our office before, so maybe this is why some folks didn't think it was going to be a thing, is if something comes into my office, be it a petition sheet or someone turning in their filing for office, we date stamp it. And we date stamp every single page of it. And in this case, when something was leaving my office, I said, I'm not just going to give the only copy of these signatures away. Not because I thought the city was going to do something bad with them, but I said they could come again. Car accident could happen, right?
CYA.
A fire could happen. So I said, I'm going to make a copy of every single one of these recall petition sheets after they've been date stamped. So we did that, and we kept them in a file. As we all know, we sent them over to the city. The city did their process, and they brought them back. And we started going back, and the petitioner said, that's not the same number of pages that we turned in. I said, well, how can that be? And I said, hold on a minute. So I pulled out our copy, and we counted every single page. Well, sure enough, the city did not bring back the total number of pages that was there. So they didn't count all the signatures. I said, you need to find these other pages. You need to count the other signatures. They couldn't find it. They couldn't find it. I said, well, we've got these other 6 pages that you can reference to find them. To answer the question directly, have they been found? No. Has there been a reason given to why they can't be found?
No.
That was one of the cases where I will fully say that I asked the state for involvement. I talked to police about that. I submitted a police report. And I have not gotten closure on that. I've not gotten communication back that anything has happened and an investigation has happened. But I've added now an additional step. So outside of just making that copy, I said, all right, we need more, right? Because now the city was trying to say, well, we didn't get them. And then I said, oh, well, we did get them, but we don't know where they went. So now what happens with these recalls is when they turn them in, I have a sheet that's made out that who was the person that turned them in, their name, how many pages did they turned in? Then the person in my office that accepted them, they sign it. That's the number of pages that they got. Then when we give them to the city clerk signs that page sheet and says, the county gave me 100 pages. And I signed my signature that I got 100 pages.
There you go.
And when they bring them back on that same sheet, there's a spot to say, this is how many got brought back to us, and my staff signed. So now we've got another layer, not just making a copy and a date stamp. Now we've got this document with signatures. That was not the case when the missing pages came up. That was something that I learned that I said, it was a CYA that I made this copy of. And I said, we can do more. So we have the signature to help that chain of custody. Because I'm constantly learning and trying to find innovative ways. I'm realizing I can't control other entities of government, and I can't always depend on what they're going to do. So I'm going to add additional steps and additional layers to, again, this isn't going to stop pages from getting missing in the future, but this helps them when they want to make an argument of how many they did or didn't get. I can say, well, you signed that you got this many.
It might deter them from, throwing them, they come up missing.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for coming on
Absolutely.
here. I'm hoping that this will spark more people to come to council meeting tonight, 5 p.m., 3rd floor, city council chambers, committee meetings. Also, Monday is a regular council meeting, but tonight you should come. You should talk to all of your council members. You should ask them directly at the podium while the city clerk is sitting there, and hopefully the city attorney. It's mass confusion going around. We have an election for the 9th ward in less than 30 days. We have another election for the 1st and the 7th ward coming up. There needs to be some type of communication sent out by the city to the residents of these wards, letting them know if they can or cannot vote. If you think about it, we are going backwards and not forward. This is another way, in my opinion, of voter suppression, and it must be stopped. If the city clerk cannot explain to you why these cards got sent out, she needs to be held accountable, and I'm going to say that. Thank you, County Clerk, for coming on. Mickey, any last words?
No, ma'am.
Thank you all for watching, and we will see you at 12 o'clock for Trevor and Clack, and then we will be back tonight at 5 o'clock for our council committee meetings. Have a great day.
Peace.
Thank you.